everybody, it's your girl, Princess Naya, aka Naya, and I am here with the Can I Shit in Peace podcast. Thank you for everyone that has listened so far. There's been a good 10 of you, and I'm really, really appreciative. I laugh, but I genuinely really, really am. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to be consistent with the content, and sometimes it's just really hard to make it all happen when there's like three of you in a canoe boat rowing forward, and then life just throws things at you to dismantle you. I didn't even think I was going to be able to deliver this episode for you guys tomorrow, but it came. And I think the reason why it comes is because I'm living, I'm experiencing brand new things. I'm a first-time mum, and another thing for me that stood out this weekend is that not only am I a first-time mum, I am parenting with Kizzy's dad, and I have never witnessed mum and dad raising a child before, which provokes, differences and just new boundaries and new hurdles to jump. Kizzy's going to be 6 in February. Well, this month, actually, we're here. She's going to be 6, and I feel like I've got to my first milestone of having a conversation about parenting and different styles, and not having your partner feel let down because you sided with your child. And that it's new for me. Growing up, it was just, I only ever had to ask my mum. If I wanted to do anything, there was never a second person to ask. There was never someone to back me up, or it was just me versus my mum. And I think that when you have children and it's them versus mum and dad, it's just a different space to be in. And it's not the most comfortable space when you have a difference of opinion between your partner, and looking at a situation, feeling like your child is right, but not letting your partner down by letting the child know that you think that they're right in front of dad. I think for me that it's a really, really, it's like a grey area. And I think the reason why I struggled with it this weekend more than before is because I am very much immersed in therapy at the moment, and I'm discovering a lot of things that occurred in my childhood that have now later play a massive role in my life and has shaped me as the adult I am, good and bad. And I think for me now, it's not just a matter of parenting, it's a matter of watching what is being said, what is being done, how your child is reacting, what type of reaction have they got, and understanding potentially how these things could benefit them in a positive or a negative way. And for me, that's really, really, really hard. I remember when I was a child, I used to cry a lot. I was very, very, very emotional. I could just have a conversation with someone, you could say something to me, and I'd burst into tears. And I have really early memories of crying and being laughed at. I remember I sang a song at my sister was getting christened, and this just goes to show how centre of attention I was when I was little. But anyway, my sister's getting christened, and I decided I wanted to sing a song, and my mum was like, yeah, of course you can sing a song. And I sang This Little Light of Mine, and I remember holding the candle, singing the song, and then I remember, and I must have been about 7, singing this song in this church, and I remember my mum laughing at me, and her and her best friend at the time. And her and her best friend's relationship really reminds me a lot of my friendship that I have with one of my friends called Shams. We're very, very, very alike. And even her relationship with me, she was my godmother. I remember that relationship. So anyway, I have that synergy, and I see it kind of like repeating itself. But anyway, I'll go back to the story. They laughed. And I was crying, and I still sang the song to the end, but I got really, really emotional. And then I remember growing up always being told like to stop being so emotional, stop crying, you don't need to cry at that, you don't need to cry at this, you don't need to cry at that. But that was the way that I expressed myself, and at a young age I was told not to do so. And looking back now at the decades in my life and all the different things that I've been through, I always fight back the tears, and I never let them flow. And I feel like it's got me to a place of being a little bit separated from understanding what emotion I'm actually going through, because I'm so busy trying not to cry, as opposed to just crying and getting it out and then moving on to the next thing. So anyway, so this little situation happened at home. Kizzy's crying, and she's probably crying for nonsense because she does cry for nonsense. She's 5. But she was crying, and then she was explaining to her dad how she feels, and he laughed at her. And for me, it just didn't feel right. And so I didn't say anything. And then she's crying again, and he's laughing. And I said, look, I don't think you should laugh at her. But for me, now looking at the situation, I don't feel like I was telling him not to laugh at her. I feel like I was saying, don't laugh at me. And I just took Kizzy's side in that instance. And I was like, look, boom, don't laugh at her. I don't feel like, And then Kizzy, because she's so smart and she's very articulate for her age, she's like a little woman, she turns around and says, Daddy, do not laugh at me when I'm trying to express myself. And it was like, whoa, So anyway, that happened. But her dad wasn't very happy with the fact that he was trying to discipline her in his way. And he explained it that I undermined him in his choice of disciplining her because she was overacting. And I was trying to explain, yeah, I do understand that. But at the same time, if I see Kizzy in duress like that, then for me, it's not just seeing her upset. It's bringing back triggers for me from when I was younger, and then how that has then affected me in my adult life, So it's just a really difficult space. And as I said at the top of me speaking, I don't have an example of what it looks like to be parented by a mum and a dad, and neither does he. So how do we know what is best and how is best to parent your children? What do you discuss in front of them? What is off limits? What is not off limits? Is it okay to show your children conflict, but successful conflict in the event, like how to deal with that conflict, like what comes out of the end? Or is it better to not show them any conflict? How do you successfully parent by, not showing your children anything? Because then as they grow older, how will they learn how to deal with their own entanglements if they have never seen anything before? But then if you show them too much, does that then give them trauma in not wanting to shy away from it? It's just a really, it's such a peculiar subject. And I suppose going through it, you're never going to really know what kind of job you've done until your children are much older and they're able to then discuss with you how positive things were for them and how negative things were for them. So anyway, my idea, because I always need an idea and I don't like anyone to be uncomfortable, especially in the household. I feel like having a safe environment for us all to be in is really, really important. So I've got some A3 sheets of paper, and my plan is to sit down and create some house rules that Kizzy can partake in, so that she feels listened to, she feels like she's heard, but then also Dad can make sure he has his boundaries set in place so she understands how far she can take it. Because I think dads and kids have a very different relationship than mums and kids. Dad is very playful. Well, in my house, very, very playful. Lots of banter, always messing around, fighting. Always ends in tears, but then always ends in the massive cuddles after the tears. Whereas when you're trying to put your foot down, that end bit kind of disappears because you're trying to be forceful in your parenting style. Whereas if there's no boundaries of how, when you're overstepping the mark, the child's not going to know when you're being serious and when you're not being serious. And mum's role is normally just the disciplinarian. They listen to what mum says over everybody else. I think that's kind of normal. I don't feel like, but then again, maybe it's just normal because in my household that everyone listened to mum, but it's only because mum was the only one there. It's really strange. But I suppose, and as I discussed with my partner, it's like, this is new for me. So I suppose that she's only just about to turn 6. And this is the first time we've had a real sit-down conversation about how it makes you feel when I've undermined you in a scenario that I don't even think I've undermined you. I just thought that I've protected the child. And how do we deal with that going forward? So yeah, it'll be really good to hear some information, hear some stories. Guys, I'd love to get someone on to talk about this particular topic, how you do it, how you deal with it, what you put in place, or do you not put anything in place and you just blaze through it and just do the best that you can? I don't really have the answer, but it was a really interesting scenario, especially for me as an adult to just look back at another human being, but just see massive comparables from when I was a child, and then me not really understanding how those things really, really did affect me. Because, I mean, having someone laugh at you anyway is not nice. In school, you know, it's just never it's nice to be mocked. But being mocked by your parent, I feel like that just hits really, really different. And it's only in this instance now, by talking about it, that I've realised that there's such a massive connection with what happened with Kizzy and what happened to me earlier on in my childhood, and how that affected me. I suppose this is one for my therapist to try and get to the bottom of it. But till then, I just thought it's really interesting to share. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to post up and see if anyone wants to get on to the podcast and discuss parenting styles and how you manage parenting with your other half, in-house or outside of the house, co-parenting or not co-parenting, who takes the lead and who backs down and who decides how far your kids are allowed to push it. But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Until next week, God bless and pray hard. And I still can't shit in peace, guys. I'm still not shitting in peace.